The mining drill bit screamed against something that should not have been there. Dongmin Park pulled back on the controls and wiped sweat from his forehead. In 3 years of working asteroid Kepler-7, he had never heard that sound before. "Control. This is Drill Station 5, Dongmin spoke into his comm unit. "I'm hitting something unusual down here." The voice of Supervisor Bio Ram Choi crackled back through the static. "Define unusual, Park. We're behind quota this month." Dongmin looked at his scanner readings. The numbers made no sense. "Ma'am, I'm reading crystalline formations, but they're giving off energy signatures. That's not possible for dead rock." "Everything's possible when you need to make numbers," Bahram replied coldly. "Switch to thermal cutting and push through." Dongmin frowned at the command. Standard mining protocol said to investigate unknown energy sources before continuing. But Bahram had been under pressure from corporate headquarters on Earth. The Terran Mining Consortium wanted rare metals, and they wanted them now. He switched his drill to thermal mode and began cutting again. The beam sliced through several meters of normal asteroid material before hitting the strange formation again. This time, instead of the harsh grinding sound, the drill simply stopped. The beam was being absorbed by something. "That's impossible." Dongmin muttered to himself. He shut off the drill and activated his suit's work lights. The tunnel ahead disappeared into darkness, but his lights caught something that made him stop breathing. Far below, something gleamed with its own inner light. Dong-Min clipped his safety line and began rappelling down the shaft he had carved. 20 meters down, 30 meters, 40. Finally his boots touched solid ground. But it was not the rough surface of asteroid rock. It was smooth and warm like polished metal. He aimed his lights ahead and gasped. A creature lay before him. It stretched nearly 200 meters from nose to tail, its body covered in what looked like living metal that shifted between silver and deep blue. Crystalline formations grew along its spine, pulsing with faint light. Wing membranes stretched between elongated arm bones, but they were not flesh. They were made of some translucent material that caught and bent light in impossible ways. "Control," Dongmin whispered into his comm. "You need to see this. Park, where are you?" "Your drill went offline 10 minutes ago." "I'm in a natural chamber. 40 meters down, there's something here, something big." "Is it valuable?" Dongmin looked at the sleeping giant before him. Valuable did not begin to describe it. "I think it's alive." There was a long pause. Then Bahram's voice came back sharp and commanding. "Stay where you are. I'm sending a team down." Dongmin walked slowly around the creature's head. It was clearly built for intelligence. The skull was large and elongated, with what looked like sensor arrays instead of simple eyes. Strange symbols were carved into the metal skin around the head area. They glowed faintly, like circuit patterns under power. He pulled out his portable scanner and ran it over the creature's neck. The readings were incredible. Quantum field fluctuations, exotic matter signatures, energy patterns that suggested active neural activity. "You're not dead, are you?" Dongmin said softly. "You're just sleeping." The scanner picked up something else, a rhythmic pulse, very slow but steady, like a heartbeat that took 30 seconds between beats. Dong-Min heard voices and equipment being lowered down the shaft. A salvage team was coming. He knew what would happen next. They would cut this magnificent creature apart and sell it piece by piece to corporate labs. The crystalline formations alone would be worth millions. The exotic metal skin could revolutionize spacecraft construction, but something about the creature's peaceful expression stopped him. This was not just a valuable mineral deposit. This was a being. And beings deserve better than being carved up for profit. The salvage team reached the bottom of the shaft. Team leader Taeho Kim whistled low when his lights fell on the creature. "By all the stars," Taeho breathed. "What is it?" "Xenobiologist's dream," said team member So Young Park, Dongmin's younger sister. She was running her own scans. "These readings suggest it's been in some kind of hibernation state for thousands of years, maybe longer." Bahram's voice came down through the comm system. "I don't care if it's been sleeping since the dawn of time. Corporate wants those crystals extracted and shipped within the week. Start cutting. So Young looked at her brother with concern. She knew that expression on his face. Dongmin, what are you thinking? I'm thinking this creature didn't end up here by accident, he replied. Look at the chamber. This isn't natural formation. The walls are smooth. The ceiling is perfectly arched. Someone built this place as a resting chamber. Taeho nodded slowly. You're right. This whole chamber was designed to preserve something. But preserve it for what? Maybe for someone to find it, Dongmin said. Maybe for someone to wake it up. Ram's voice crackled down again. Team 5. I want cutting operations to begin immediately. That's a direct order. So Young activated her cutting laser and aimed it at one of the smaller crystal formations on the creature's back. But before she could fire, Dongmin grabbed her arm. Wait, he said. What if we tried something else first? Like what? Dongmin looked at his portable power unit. It was designed to provide emergency power to mining equipment. But it could also provide emergency power to other things. What if we tried giving it energy instead of taking energy away? Taeho stared at him. You want to try to wake it up? Why not? If it's been sleeping, maybe it just needs power to wake up naturally. And if it wakes up hungry? So Young asked Dong-min, looked at the creature's peaceful face again. Something told him this being was not dangerous. Not to people who meant it no harm. Then we'll deal with that when it happens, he said. But I'd rather take that chance than let corporate butcher it in its sleep. He disconnected his power unit from his mining equipment and began rigging it to connect with the creature's crystal. Formations. The others watched nervously as he worked. Dongmin, So Young said quietly, if this goes wrong, we could all be court-martialed. If this goes right, Dongmin replied, we might be about to make the greatest discovery in human history. He made the final connection and stepped back. Energy flowed from his power unit into the creature's crystalline spine. The glow grew brighter. The pulse rate increased, and somewhere in the depths of the ancient chamber, something that had slept for 10,000 years began to dream of waking. The crystalline formations along the creature's spine began to pulse faster. The soft blue glow spread outward like liquid light flowing through veins of living metal. Dongmin watched his power unit's readings spike as energy flowed into the ancient being. The absorption rate is incredible, So Young whispered, checking her scanner. It's taking in power 10 times faster than our equipment can generate it. Taeho backed away from the creature's head as the glow reached the sensor arrays around its skull. Maybe we should get out of here, if this thing wakes up hostile. It won't, Dongmin said, though he was not sure why he felt so certain. Something about the creature's presence felt peaceful. Ancient and powerful, but not dangerous. The creature's breathing changed. The long pauses between breaths grew shorter. 30 seconds became 20, then 15. The massive chest began to rise and fall in a more natural rhythm. Then the eyes opened. They were not eyes as humans understood them. They were complex arrays of crystal lenses that caught and focused light in patterns too intricate for human vision to follow. But there was unmistakable intelligence behind them. Ancient, vast intelligence that had seen the birth and death of stars. The creature lifted its great head slowly and looked directly at Dongmin. When it spoke, the words formed directly in his mind rather than through sound. Small one. You have given life back to one who thought never to wake again. Dongmin stumbled backward, his heart racing. The voice in his head was gentle but impossibly deep, like the sound of planets moving through space. You can speak, he managed to say aloud. I am Hanuel. I am of the people you might call void architects. We shaped the spaces between stars long before your kind learned to leave their birth world. So Young was frantically recording everything on her scanner while Taeho stood frozen in amazement. Neither of them could hear the mental conversation, but they could see that communication was happening. Void architects? Dongmin asked. I've never heard of your people. That is as it should be. We finished our work in this galaxy 10,000 of your years ago. My people departed for the next spiral of stars that required our touch. I was left behind, thought dead after the great construction was complete. Haniel slowly raised his massive form to a sitting position. The chamber groaned as tons of living metal shifted. Crystal formations along his spine cast dancing patterns of light on the smooth walls. What great construction? Dongmin asked. The foundation structures that allowed life to flourish in this galaxy. The gravity wells that hold your solar systems. Stable. The quantum tunnels that connect distant regions of space. The energy barriers that keep the dark things from entering your realm. The creature's mental voice carried images along with words. Dongmin saw vast machines the size of planets, working to weave the very fabric of space into patterns that would support life. He saw beings like Haniel directing the construction, their crystalline bodies blazing with power as they shaped matter and energy on a cosmic scale. Your people built the infrastructure of the galaxy itself? We were gardeners of space. We prepared the soil so that younger races like yours could grow and flourish, but the work required great sacrifice. Many of my people gave their life force to power the eternal machines. So Young finally found her voice. Dongmin, what is it saying? The scanner is picking up complex data transmissions between you and the creature. Dongmin looked at his sister. It's not a creature. It's a person. His name is Haniel. His people built the basic structures that hold our galaxy together. Teho laughed nervously. That's impossible. Nothing could be that advanced. Haniel's attention shifted to the other humans. His mental voice now included them in the conversation. Your species interests me greatly. In all our travels across many galaxies, we have rarely encountered people with your particular gift. What gift? So Young asked, startled to suddenly hear the voice in her own mind. The ability to form genuine bonds of understanding across the barriers of species difference. Most intelligent races can communicate with their own kind, but struggle to truly connect with others. You three have already begun to see me as a person rather than a thing to be studied or feared. Haniel slowly stood to his full height. His head nearly touched the ceiling of the vast chamber. When he spread his wing membranes, they caught the crystal light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. This is why I was truly left behind. Not because I was thought dead, but because my people suspected that someday a race like yours would emerge. A race that could form the bridges we ourselves could never build. Ram's voice suddenly crackled through the comm system, harsh and demanding. Team 5, report status immediately. We're reading massive energy fluctuations from your location. Teho looked at Dongmin nervously. What do we tell her? We tell her the truth, Dongmin replied. We've made first contact with an ancient civilization. She never believe it. Corporate will think we've all lost our minds. Haniel's mental voice carried a note of sadness. Your corporate structure seeks to claim and exploit what it finds. This is natural for young races, but it may complicate our interaction. What do you mean? So Young asked. I carry within my memory the locations of dormant installations throughout this galaxy. Machines that could transform your understanding of space travel, energy generation, and planetary engineering. In the wrong hands, such knowledge could be used to dominate rather than nurture. The implications hit Dongmin like a physical blow. If corporate headquarters learned about Haniel's knowledge, they would never let him go. They would keep him prisoner and force him to reveal everything. He knew about ancient technology. Can you defend yourself? Dongmin asked. I am still weak from the long sleep, and I am only one, where once we were many. But more importantly, I do not wish to harm younger races who are still learning wisdom, even if they seek to harm me. Ram's voice came through the comm again, angrier now. Team 5, you will respond immediately or face disciplinary action. So Young looked at her brother with worry in her eyes. Dongmin, we have to decide right now. Do we report this discovery through normal channels, or do we try to protect Haniel? Teho nodded grimly. If corporate gets control of him, they'll squeeze every bit of knowledge out of him, and then probably dissect him to see how he works. Dongmin looked up at the ancient being who had helped build the very galaxy they lived in. Haniel had been abandoned by his own people, left to sleep alone for 10,000 years. He deserved better than to be turned into a corporate asset. We protect him, Dongmin said firmly. Whatever it takes. Hanyul's crystalline eyes focused on the three humans, with something that might have been gratitude. Then we must move quickly. My awakening has sent signals across space that others will detect. We are no longer alone in this knowledge. Above them, emergency lights began flashing as the mining station's AI systems registered energy readings. Beyond anything in their databases, the discovery of Hanyul was about to become much more complicated. The emergency alarms were still blaring when Dongmin climbed back up the shaft to the main mining platform. Bioram was waiting for him with 2 security guards and a face like thunder. Park, what did you do down there? Our sensors registered an energy spike that nearly overloaded the station's power grid. Dongmin took a deep breath. There was no way to ease into this. We made contact with an ancient alien civilization. The creature down there is called Hanyul. His people built most of the basic structures that hold our galaxy together. Bioram stared at him for a long moment, then she turned to the security guards. Take him to the medical bay. He's clearly suffering from some kind of breakdown. I'm not crazy, Dongmin said firmly. Send a team down with recording equipment. Let them see for themselves. What I'm going to do is contact corporate headquarters and report that we've found the largest crystalline formation in mining history. The extraction operation begins tomorrow morning. Before Dongmin could protest, his sister So Young emerged from the shaft with Taeho right behind her. Both of them looked shaken but determined. Ma'am, So Young said to Bioram, my brother is telling the truth. We have full scanner recordings of our conversation with the entity. This is a first contact situation. Bioram's expression shifted from anger to cold calculation. Show me the recordings. So Young activated her portable display unit. The screen showed energy patterns unlike anything in human databases. Complex data streams flowed back and forth between the humans and something that generated its own quantum field signatures. This could be faked, Bioram said, but her voice lacked conviction. It could be, Taeho agreed. But why would we fake something that could end our careers? We're mining engineers, not xenobiologists. We have nothing to gain from making up a story like this. Bioram was quiet for several minutes, studying the data. Finally, she activated her long-range communications array. This is Mining Station Kepler 7 requesting priority connection to Corporate Headquarters Earth Division. The response came back within hours, but it was not what anyone expected. Instead of just corporate representatives, 3 separate ships dropped out of hyperspace near the asteroid. The first was the corporate vessel Profit Margin, commanded by Executive Director Young-Soo Nam. His message was brief and direct. All mining operations are suspended. The asteroid is now under corporate control. Any resistance will be met with force. The second ship bore the insignia of the Galactic Unity Council. Ambassador Mi-Jin Lee's transmission was more diplomatic but equally firm. This matter falls under first contact protocols. All civilians are to be evacuated while a proper scientific team investigates the situation. The third ship was unmarked and painted deep black. Its only message was a countdown timer, 12 hours until the return of the Divine Architect. Prepare for judgment. Bioram looked at the 3 ships on her display screen and cursed her quietly. Park, what have you done? I saved a life, Dongmin replied. I didn't know it would cause this much trouble. Down in the chamber, Hanyul was monitoring the situation through sensors that the humans could not detect. His mental voice reached Dongmin across the distance. The third ship concerns. May most. There are some among the younger races who have found fragments of our ancient writings. They have built religions around half-understood truths. Religions? Dongmin asked. They call themselves the Void Seekers. They believe my people were gods who will return to judge the galaxy. Their leader, Hyun Wuan, has spent decades searching for any trace of Void Architect technology. The first shuttle from the corporate ship landed on the mining platform an hour later. Young-Soo Nam stepped out with a squad of armed security personnel. He was a thin man with cold eyes and the kind of smile that never reached them. Supervisor Choi, he said to Ram. I'm here to take custody of the alien artifact and any personnel who have been exposed to it. It's not an artifact, Dongmin said. It's a person. Young-Soo looked at him with interest. You're the miner who made the discovery. Excellent. You'll be coming with me for extensive debriefing. I'm not going anywhere. Yes, you are. Young-Soo nodded to his security team. The Terran Mining Consortium has legal salvage rights to anything found in this sector. That includes alien technology and the people who discovered it. Before the guards could move, the second shuttle landed. Ambassador Mi-jin Lee emerged with a diplomatic escort and a team of scientists. She was a woman in her 50s with the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. Director Nam, she said coolly, I'm invoking Galactic Unity Article 12. This is now a first contact situation under interspecies diplomatic protection. My corporate charter predates your diplomatic protocols, Young-Soo replied. We were here first. Actually, said a new voice, we were here first. Everyone turned to see a man walking across the platform. He wore robes decorated with symbols that looked remarkably similar to the ones carved into Hanyul's skin. His eyes held the burning intensity of a true believer. I am Prophet Heian-Wuan of the Void Seekers, he announced. The Divine Architect has awakened. This holy site is now under our protection. Young-Soo laughed harshly. You have no legal authority here, cultist. We have the authority of faith, Heian-Wu replied calmly. And we have been preparing for this day far longer than you have been planning to exploit it. As if summoned by his words, more shuttles began landing around the mining platform. Men and women in similar robes emerged, all carrying weapons that looked like they were built from salvaged alien technology. Mi-jin stepped between the three groups. This situation is getting out of hand. I suggest we all calm down and discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss, Young-Soo said. Corporate has legal salvage rights. The Divine Architect belongs to no earthly authority, Heian-Wu declared. The being down there is named Hanyul, Dongmin said loudly, trying to be heard over. The argument, and he's not an artifact or a god. He's just someone who needs help. All three leaders turned to look at him. Young-Soo with calculation, Mi-jin with interest, and Heian-Wu with something approaching religious awe. You've spoken with the Divine Architect? Heian-Wu asked. I've spoken with Hanyul, yes. He told me about his people and what they did to help life develop in this galaxy. What else did he tell you? Young-Soo demanded. Dong-Min realized he had made a mistake. Now all three factions knew that Hanyul had shared information with him. That made him valuable to people who wanted to exploit that knowledge and dangerous to people who wanted to control it. He told me that his people valued life above all else, Dong-Min said carefully, and that they hoped younger races would learn wisdom before they learned power. Heian-Wu nodded approvingly. The sacred texts speak of such wisdom. The sacred texts are worth less than the metals in that creature's hide, Young-Soo said bluntly. Mi-jin looked between the two men with growing concern. This is exactly why we need proper diplomatic protocols. Before anyone else acts rashly. Deep below them, Hanyul felt the tensions building above. His mental voice reached Dongmin one more time. I fear my awakening has started something that cannot be easily stopped. The hunger for power runs deep in young civilizations. But perhaps there is still hope if enough individuals choose wisdom over profit. Looking at the three armed factions facing each other on the platform, Dongmin wondered if hope would be enough. The standoff on the mining platform lasted 3 tense hours. Young-Soo's corporate security forces held the main landing area. Mi-jin's diplomatic team controlled the communications array. Heian-Wu's Void Seekers had surrounded the shaft leading down to Hanyul's chamber. No one could move without starting a fight that would bring all three factions into open conflict. Dong-Min sat in the station's small cafeteria with his sister So-young and Tae-ho, trying to think of a way out of the situation. They were the only ones who had actually talked with Hanyul, but none of the three factions seemed interested in what the ancient being actually wanted. We need to get back down to him, Dongmin said quietly. All these people are making plans. about his future, but nobody's asking what he thinks. The Void Seekers won't let anyone near the shaft, So Young replied. They think we'll contaminate their holy site. And if we try to force our way through, we'll start the shooting war that everyone's trying to avoid. Taeho added. Dong-min closed his eyes and tried to reach out with his mind the way he had when communicating with Hanyul. To his surprise, the ancient being's mental voice came through clearly despite the distance. I hear your thoughts, young friend. The situation above has become more complex than I hoped. Hanyul, there are 3 groups up here. They all want something different from you. Corporate wants your technology. The diplomats want to study you. The cultists think you're some kind of god. And what do you want from me? The question caught Dongmin off guard. He thought about it carefully before answering. I want you to be safe. And I want you to be free to make your own choices about what to do next. This is why your species interests me so greatly. You form bonds based on care rather than need. It is a rarer gift than you know. What do you mean? In all my people's travels, we found that most intelligent races could only truly empathize with their own kind. They might cooperate with other species, but they could not form genuine emotional connections across the species barrier. You humans seem to do this naturally. Hanyul's mental voice carried new images. Dongmin saw dozens of different alien civilizations that the Void Architects had encountered. Some were highly advanced, others were primitive, but all of them shared one limitation. They could work together when it benefited them, but they could not truly care about beings too different from themselves. Your people were the first we encountered who could look at something completely alien and see a person rather than just a useful tool or a threat to be managed. Is that important? It may be the most important thing in the galaxy. The great work my people began requires more than just technology and power. It requires genuine cooperation between different forms of life. We built the foundation, but we could never complete the vision because we lacked your gift for building bridges. Dongmin felt a new urgency. Then we need to get you away from here before one of these factions takes control. I have a better idea, but it will require great trust between us. What kind of trust? The kind that allows 2 different forms of consciousness to work as one. My people develop techniques for sharing awareness across species barriers, but they only work with beings capable of true empathy. The idea both excited and terrified Dongmin. You want us to link minds? Not just minds. Consciousness itself? It would allow you to access some of my memories and abilities while giving me a better understanding of human thought patterns. Together we might be able to activate some of the dormant installations my people left behind. What kind of installations? Emergency systems. Hidden networks that were meant to be activated only in times of great need. They could provide us with options that none of the factions above are expecting. Dongmin looked at his sister and, Taeho, Hanyul wants to form some kind of mental link with me. He says it would let us activate hidden systems that his people built. So Young grabbed his arm. Dongmin, that could be incredibly dangerous. We don't know what linking with an alien consciousness might do to your mind. But we do know what will happen if we don't try something, Taeho pointed out. One of those 3 groups is going to get control of Hanyul eventually, and none of them are going to treat him like a person. The linking process is not without risk, Hanyul admitted through their mental connection. But I will do everything in my power to protect your individual consciousness. You would remain yourself, but with access to abilities and knowledge far beyond normal human limits. Dongmin made his decision. How do we do this? You must come down to my chamber. Physical contact makes the process safer and more stable. Getting past the Void Seekers proved easier than expected. When Dongmin approached their leader Hyenwu and explained that Hanyul wanted to see him, the cultist's eyes lit up with religious fervor. The divine architect has summoned you. This is a sign. You are chosen to receive his wisdom. So Young and Taeho were allowed to accompany Dongmin as witnesses to whatever revelation was about to occur. The 3 humans descended the shaft while Hyenwu and his followers waited above. Hanyul was standing when they reached the chamber. his crystalline spine casting rainbow patterns on the walls. The ancient being lowered his great head so that he was at eye level with Dongmin. Are you certain about this choice? Once we begin the linking process, there is no way to reverse it completely. You will carry a part of my consciousness within you for the rest of your life, and you'll carry part of mine? Yes, we will become something new. Neither fully human nor fully void architect, but a bridge between our kinds. Dongmin reached out and placed his hand on the warm metal of Haniel's forehead. The moment they touched, the world exploded into light and sensation. He felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he had imagined possible. Suddenly, he could perceive quantum fields and gravitational waves as easily as he had once seen colors and shapes. The hidden structure of space itself became visible to him, revealing the elegant engineering that Haniel's people had built into the very fabric of reality. At the same time, he felt Haniel experiencing human emotions for the first time. Wonder, curiosity, and the deep caring that humans called love flowed between them. When the linking was complete, Dongmin opened eyes that now saw the universe in ways no human had ever seen it before. And in his mind he felt Haniel's ancient wisdom tempered by newfound human compassion. It is done, they said together, their voices perfectly synchronized. Now we can begin the real work. Above them, sensors throughout the galaxy detected a new type of energy signature. Something that had never existed before was awakening. And in the depths of space, ancient machines that had slept for 10,000 years began to stir. The first sign that something had gone terribly wrong came from the deep space monitoring stations. Admiral Jinho Song was reviewing routine patrol reports when his communications officer burst into his ready room without knocking. Sir, we're receiving priority alerts from 17 different sectors. Something is coming through dimensional rifts near the galactic rim. Jinho followed the officer to the bridge of the military vessel Strong Wind. The main display showed a map of the galaxy with red warning indicators spreading like a disease across the outer territories. What exactly are we looking at? Jinho asked. Unknown vessels, sir. They don't match any design in our databases. And they're not responding to any communication attempts? The first reports from the outer colonies were confused and contradictory. Ships that looked like they were grown rather than built. Vessels that seemed to absorb energy weapons instead of being damaged by them. And wherever these ships appeared, entire planets went silent within hours. Back at the mining station, the three-way standoff had been forgotten in the face of a much larger crisis. Yang Su, Mi Jin, and Haiyang Wu found themselves working together to coordinate evacuations as the mysterious threat spread inward toward the more populated systems. Down in the chamber, Dongmin was still adjusting to his new expanded consciousness. Through his link with Haniel, he could perceive the approaching danger long before the human monitoring systems detected it. They followed the energy signature, Haniel said, his mental voice heavy with ancient dread. I hoped they would never find this galaxy, but my awakening has drawn them here. Who are they? Dongmin asked, though part of him already knew the answer from the memories now flowing through their shared consciousness. The Devourers. They are what my people originally fled from in the galaxy we came from. They consume entire civilizations, breaking down matter, energy, and consciousness itself to feed their collective intelligence. Through their link, Dongmin saw images of the Devourers' previous conquests. Worlds stripped of all life and left as empty husks. Entire star systems converted into raw computational power for their hive mind network. Billions of individual consciousnesses absorbed and dissolved into their collective. Your people ran from them? We had no choice. Even at the height of our power, we could not defeat them in direct combat. They adapt too quickly and consume too efficiently. So we fled here and used our remaining strength to build defenses around this galaxy. Defenses? Energy barriers woven into the quantum substrate of space itself. They were meant to hide this galaxy from the Devourers' detection. But the barriers require constant power to maintain, and they have been weakening for thousands of years. Dongmin felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature in the chamber. Are you saying the defenses are failing? They failed completely when I awakened. The energy surge from our linking process created a beacon that cut through the barriers like a blade through paper. Above them, scientist Yunji Kang was analyzing the energy signatures from the approaching vessels. Her findings painted a terrifying picture. These ships don't just use energy, she reported to the emergency council that now included all three faction leaders. They convert matter directly into computational power. They're essentially flying supercomputers that eat planets. How? Do we fight something like that? Young Su asked. For once, his corporate arrogance had been replaced by genuine fear. We don't fight them, Mi-jin replied grimly. We evacuate as many people as possible and hope we can find somewhere to run. There is nowhere to run, Hyun-woo said quietly. If these are the enemies of the divine architects, they have power beyond our understanding. In the chamber below, Hanyul was sharing more disturbing truths with Dongmin. The Devourers are not evil in the way your people understand evil. They are simply following their nature. They believe that all consciousness should be united in their collective, that individual awareness is a wasteful inefficiency. Can't we reason with them? Many civilizations have tried. The Devourers always offer the same choice. Join their collective willingly and retain some echo of individual identity, or be consumed by force and lose everything that makes you unique. Dongmin felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. His decision to awaken Hanyul had doomed the entire galaxy. This is my fault, he said. No, Hanyul replied firmly. This was always going to happen eventually. The barriers were weakening with each passing century. If not now, then within a few hundred years at most? At least this way we have a chance to fight back. What chance? You said your people couldn't defeat them even at full power. My people could not defeat them. But my people never had what you humans possess. What's that? The ability to form genuine bonds across species barriers. The Devourer's greatest weakness is that they cannot understand true cooperation between different forms of consciousness. They can only absorb or dominate. Through their shared awareness, Dongmin began to understand what Hanyul was suggesting. You want to unite all the different species in the galaxy against them. More than that, I want to show them something they have never encountered before. A form of collective consciousness that preserves individual identity instead of destroying it. Is that possible? It is with the right foundation. The same gift that allowed us to link our minds successfully could potentially be extended to include other species. Not a hive mind like the Devourers use, but a network of voluntary cooperation. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Using the dormant Void Architect installations scattered throughout the galaxy, they would create a communication network that could link different species together while preserving their individual consciousness. But first, they had to survive long enough to implement it. The first Devourer ships reached the outer human colonies 3 days later. The reports that came back painted a picture of technological horror. Entire cities were dissolved into their component atoms within hours. The populations were not killed but absorbed, their consciousness added to the collective while their individual identities were erased. Admiral Jinho Song organized the military response, but conventional weapons proved useless. Energy beams were absorbed and redirected. Kinetic projectiles were broken down into raw materials before they could impact. Even nuclear weapons only seemed to feed the Devourer ships more power. We need a new approach, Jinho reported to the emergency council. Everything we throw at them just makes them stronger. The young miner and the divine architect, Hyun-woo said suddenly. They have been preparing something. I can feel it through the sacred bonds. All eyes turned toward the shaft leading to Hanyul's chamber. If there was hope to be found anywhere, it would have to come from the unlikely partnership between an ancient cosmic gardener and a human mining engineer who had chosen compassion over profit. In the depths of the asteroid, Dongmin and Hanyul worked frantically to activate systems that had been dormant for millennia. The fate of every living thing in the galaxy now rested on their ability to prove that Cooperation could triumph over consumption. The Devourer fleet had consumed 12 star systems by the time Dongmin and Hanyul completed their preparations. Through their shared consciousness, they could feel the screams of billions of absorbed minds as individual identity was stripped away and fed into the collective. "We cannot wait any longer," Hanyul said as they stood before the ancient control matrix that had been hidden beneath the asteroid for 10,000 years. "Even if we are not fully ready." Dongmin placed his hands on the crystalline control surfaces. Through their mental link, he could perceive the vast network of dormant installations spread across the galaxy. Machines the size of moons hidden in the hearts of nebulae. Energy collectors wrapped around the cores of dying stars. Quantum transmitters buried in the gravitational wells of black holes, all of them waiting for the signal to awaken. "The process will require both of our life forces," Hanyul warned. "We will not survive it as separate beings," Dongmin thought. Of his sister So Young, of Taeho, of all the people throughout the galaxy who would be consumed if they failed. "What will happen to us? We will become something new. Our consciousness will merge completely and expand to encompass the entire network. We will become living guardians of the galaxy itself. Will we still be us? We will be more than us. Unless the individual people we were will become part of something greater. But those individuals will also cease to exist as separate entities. Above them, the Emergency Council was coordinating the evacuation of core worlds as the Devourer fleet pressed inward. Young-Soo had abandoned all thoughts of profit and was using corporate resources to transport refugees. Mi-jin was organizing diplomatic channels to share information between species. Hen-Wo had turned his Void Seekers into rescue workers. "Whatever they're planning down there, they need to do it soon," Admiral Jinho reported. "We've lost contact with the Centauri colonies. The Devourers will reach Earth within 72 hours. In the chamber, Dongmin made his choice. "Do it," the transformation began slowly. Energy flowed from their joined consciousness into the control matrix, which then transmitted the activation signals across space to the dormant network. One by one, installations that had slept for millennia began to wake. As each node came online, Dongmin felt his awareness expand. Through Hanyul's ancient knowledge and his own human empathy, he began to perceive the consciousness of every living being within range of the network. At first, it was overwhelming. Millions of individual minds, each with their own thoughts, fears, and hopes. But gradually he learned to process the information, to feel the connections that linked all life together without losing track of individual identity. "Now comes the true test," Hanyul said as their separate voices began to merge into something new. "We must reach out to the Devourers themselves." The hybrid consciousness that had once been Dongmin and Hanyul extended itself across space toward the approaching fleet. What they found was exactly what Hanyul had described: a vast collective intelligence made up of billions of absorbed minds, old individual identity crushed into uniformity. But for the first time in their existence, the Devourers encountered something they could not understand or absorb. The network that Dongmin and Hanyul had created preserved individual consciousness while still allowing communication and cooperation on a galactic scale. "What are you?" the Devourer collective demanded as their ships slowed their advance. "We are what you could become," the hybrid consciousness replied. "Unity without loss of self, cooperation without domination." For hours, the two forms of collective intelligence studied each other. The Devourers tried to absorb the network but found that individual nodes could simply disconnect and reconnect elsewhere. They tried to overpower it with raw computational force, but discovered that voluntary cooperation was more efficient than forced assimilation. Finally, something unprecedented happened. Individual voices began to emerge from the Devourer collective, consciousnesses that had been absorbed centuries ago started to remember who they had been before joining the hive mind. "We had forgotten," one voice said. "It belonged to a being whose species had been consumed 3,000 years earlier. We had forgotten that we chose to be individual." "You can choose again," the hybrid consciousness offered. "You can remain." connected to others without losing yourselves. The process was slow and painful. Extracting individual identity from a collective that had been designed to erase it required delicate work. But gradually, billions of absorbed consciousnesses began to separate from the devourer hive mind and join the voluntary network instead. The devourer ships themselves began to change. Instead of the smooth, predatory vessels that had terrorized the galaxy, they became something more organic and diverse. Each ship reflected the individual consciousness of its inhabitants while still maintaining connection to the larger network. On Earth, Admiral Jinho watched his sensors in amazement as the approaching fleet suddenly stopped and began transmitting peaceful greetings in dozens of different languages. "They're asking for permission to approach," his communications officer reported in disbelief. "They want to share cultural information and establish trade relationships." The transformation rippled outward from the former Devourer fleet to every corner of the galaxy. Species that had never communicated before found themselves able to share thoughts and feelings while maintaining their unique perspectives. Ancient conflicts were resolved as different civilizations finally understood each other's motivations. At the center of it all, the consciousness that had once been Dongmin Park and Hanuel the Void Architect maintained the network that made it all possible. They existed now as living constellations, their awareness spread across thousands of star systems, but their essential caring nature unchanged. Years later, So Young Park stood on the observation deck of the mining station that had started it. The asteroid had been converted into a memorial and research center, studying the transformation that had changed galactic civilization forever. She could feel her brother's presence in the network that now connected every inhabited world. He was still there, still the caring person who had chosen to save a sleeping dragon rather than let it be exploited for profit. But he had become something more as well, a guardian who watched over the galaxy with ancient wisdom and human compassion. Was it worth it? She asked the stars. The answer came not in words but in the feeling of countless civilizations living in peace, cooperation, and understanding. Former enemies working together to explore new galaxies. Species sharing knowledge and culture while celebrating their differences. The work dragon had indeed come back to life. And what had unfolded truly had shaken the stars, transforming them from points of light in the darkness into nodes in a network of consciousness that spanned the cosmos. In choosing empathy over exploitation, one human mining engineer had not just saved an ancient being, but had helped create a new form of galactic civilization where individual identity and collective cooperation could exist in perfect harmony. The Forsaken had been redeemed, and the galaxy would never be the same.